I remember seeing one of Bob Lanier's shoes in the Basketball Hall of Fame. It had a sneaker in the Hall of Fame just because of his shoe size, but damn it, the Lanier shoes got to go out. The Durant shoes got to go in. I have never heard so much about a damn shoe in my life. Oh, if it had been another half shoe. It was a half shoe size. Natalie, I know you feel me on this one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I just want to point out, somebody told me, I can't remember who it was, that you said the road struggles for the Warriors. Somebody told me that's not real.
I said
that
it.
was a quote.
I said it. It's not real.
Not real.
It's not.
It's not real. It's real. Charles McDonald, I don't know about you. All the people he says he would back up, I think his list is too short. Maybe the list of people he would want to back up. Yeah. People he needs to. The people he would have to back up. I listen to Pro Football Talk every morning. Sometimes when I'm listening, I'll just text my brother Sims. I'll be like, I can't believe you just said that. Hey, I'm waiting for him to say, look, you do your own damn show. Leave me alone. You do your damn show.
65 minimum games for awards. I can appreciate this, and everyone will appreciate this until you got bums on the All-NBA team and winning awards because someone didn't qualify because they missed 10 games at some point of the season with an ankle injury. All of a sudden, you don't have any of those guys on All-NBA teams, and then what NBA are we representing? When you look back in history and you got a bum on the All-NBA second team or All-NBA first team because guys miss some games, it won't be so appreciated then, and everybody will be complaining now. And you know who else will be complaining? I think owners are going to end up complaining when they find a bum that they have to give an extension to that made the All-NBA team, and now they come in there asking you for max and super max and blah, blah, blah because they made the NBA team because guys weren't allowed that played 63 games.
When I look back at NBA history, Michael and Natalie, I recall a lot of people who weren't bums that played all 82. Right. See, back in my day, Natalie, back in me and Michael's day, Natalie, see, Natalie too young. Natalie too young to remember these days when dudes played all 82 games and they didn't complain about it. Today's players ain't the first players to get hurt. They ain't the first players to have boo-boos. They ain't the first players to be injured. But guess what? Great players still manage to make all NBA teams, and they still manage to win MVP while playing the vast majority of their games. So listen, I know everybody all hot and bothered because a lot of today's great players who also happen to be old missed a lot of time this year, and therefore, starting next year, would not qualify for things like All-NBA and MVP and yada, 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 thanks to this new CBA. No, I'm saying, like, hey, here's a simple solution, Michael. Simple solution. How about you just play? Just play. And if you don't, talk shit.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. Okay, who are these? I think Draymond Green likes saying the word bum. Every time
does like saying bum.
Laughing.
He does.
He's like,
he does.
A bum.
Bingo.
Then he started laughing.
Bingo.
Because
Bingo.
In his scenario,
as if only the good players miss games and only the bad players play every game. Like, come on.
Exactly.
You
know? The logic is so flawed. The logic is flawed, and so is the math. Because I'm using his example. What are you going to do when a great player misses 10 games? Well, they still can play 72
games.
They still 72. Miss 5 more. That's still 67. You still have you've met the threshold. So what's the problem, man? Like, I like the Draymond Green podcast, Natalie, but sometimes, like all of us in this content space, sometimes you just kind of stretch and make up things because you need something to talk about. So I think that's what he's doing right here.
Now let's go to the Warriors PR. Now let's go to the Warriors PR representative, Natalie. Because I'm sure you was texting with Draymond probably before the show. You probably gave Draymond this take, didn't you?
Are y'all done now? Can I say what? First of all, I don't listen to Draymond's podcast, okay? But it's floated around, so I see it. That being said, I agree with him, not with the use of the word bums. I wouldn't call other NBA players bums. Maybe he has that liberty because he's an NBA player. I will not. But that being said, no, he's right. He's absolutely right. And this is an overreaction. It's an overcorrection to load management. Most of the players who have missed time and have not met the 65 game requirement in like the last few years that's going to be imposed, it's due to injury. It is not mostly due to load management. That's a Kawhi thing. It is due to injury. And a lot of them did. If you look back at, thank you, perfect. If you look back at some of these players, Giannis would have missed it 61 games a couple of years ago. Steph, he was 63, 64 games. Luka is right on the border, but if you went back 3 years, he played 61 games. So there's a lot of people that are right in that 60 to 65 threshold, and those players are largely, mostly missing due to injuries.
Natalie,
it's not load management.
Stop it.
A lot of guys. Okay, a lot of guys are missing games to injury. A lot of guys are missing games to injury.
Look at Ja Morant. He's young. You think Ja Morant is being load managed? That's the point. That's why I even brought in younger players like Giannis and Ja to show you guys. Like, and then you also know, like, all of this, I think it's honestly
Giannis is load management. Ja Morant's not. Giannis is. Ja Morant's not. I'll give you that. Well, let's meet in the middle. Ja is not load management.
What were you about to say,
neither is Steph Curry. He's had legit injuries that kept him out. So when you're saying he's not, I know you're focused on this year and the fact that Kerr rested them, but that was only on the second night of a back-to-back. They don't just load manage like Kawhi. And let me make this one point about the Warriors, because I know we got to bring Kurt in, but with Kawhi, he actually low manages. With the Warriors, they have gone to the postseason. This isn't about the
Warriors.
Hold on. I'm just saying. But they have gone to the postseason more than any other team. I'm going to tie it together. So they in total have played almost 2 full seasons extra than any of these other players, and those guys are in their 30s. So when you guys just sit there and dismiss all the players of the past, you're not that much older than me. Michael Smith, please stop it. When you dismiss all these other players of the past, talking about, oh, they played and they did this in the past. One, we evolve, right? We evolve as people.
Yes, so we've evolved. Science, technology.
We understand the science, yes. So we understand that. But secondly, Michael Jordan took a whole year off. Okay, like what I'm saying,
and he didn't make all NBA that year. He didn't make all NBA that year.
When you keep going, but he missed the whole season. My point is, you do at some point, like you're just saying, like these athletes need rest and it doesn't matter. It does matter.
No, I never said that. I never said that.
No, but that's what you're saying when you keep saying, oh, that's what they did. They were stupid back then.
No, I never said they don't. I never said they don't need rest.
Too much.
But you don't need 17 games of rest. First of all, this ain't about the Warriors. Everything ain't about the Warriors. Secondly, this ain't about Michael Jordan. What this is about, LeBron has had that problem for 20 years. LeBron has played more basketball over the last 20 years than anybody in the history of basketball. All the postseason runs he's been on and on the Olympics.
No, but
I'm not. Listen, if the Warriors or anybody else want to manage their players, that's their prerogative. But you're not going to tell me that the All-NBA, specifically All-NBA, should be a reputation award. If you get hurt, that's unfortunate. If you want to load manage, that's your prerogative. 65. Here's where I would compromise with you, Natalie. I think it should be 58, which I believe is the same number that you need to qualify for the scoring title. 58 to 60 makes a little more sense. I think they will correct this overcorrection. But if you want to blame anybody for this overcorrection, blame the players themselves, blame the teams themselves. Yes, we've evolved, but part of excellence is availability. I'm sorry, I have no problem with it.
But everyone isn't.
No, I'm not saying they all are.
And so
but
to me,
people
it's
get hurt.
common sense on the league. But they know the players that are missing are because of injuries. They can look, they see the injuries.
Not all of them. Not all of them. Kevin Durant's in the night.
It's not injuries. Hey,
it's not all injuries. A lot of it is.
It's not injuries.
Hold on. That's like, it's a ridiculous example. He's sitting tonight because the season is decided. But all the games he missed for the past 2 years is because of injury. It was not load management.
Right. Okay. And that's fine.
Were injury. LeBron's were
so
injury.
Wait a minute.
So
you're overstating the amount of time missed to injury, just as we're overstating the amount of time missed to load management. Okay, there's a lot more load management. There's a lot more load management, and there's a lot more injury. I think we're both right here. We're both right here.
Hey,
who
can I just say real quick,
quickly? I'm sorry.
Can I say quickly on this? Let's bring up that tweet again from Easy Money Sniper, the Slim Reaper, Kevin Durant. Let's bring that up. That little snark that he has when somebody is saying Kevin Durant is averaging 29 points and all that stuff in over 47 games. So, and he writes back, oh, it doesn't count, not 65. Well, Kevin, it's hard to average 29 or 30. He's done it before. It's harder to average 29 or 30 over 65 games than it is 47. Should Kevin Durant be all NBA?
Kevin Durant.
No,
not
he
for,
shouldn't
not for
be.
Kevin Durant. And I don't think anyone is advocating for 47 games. What we're saying is there's a lot of players who are right under that 65 threshold. And I agree with Michael.
Sorry, you didn't make it this year. Got to cut it off. Sorry, we got to say no. Everybody don't get a participation trophy. We got to say no. We're pros. You're getting paid. You're grown up. If you get hurt, I'm sorry. It's not your fault you got hurt. But if you didn't meet the threshold for the All-NBA award, if you play 58 games and somebody plays 80, if you play 58 games, somebody plays 75, I think that's part of it. Sometimes it's training. Sometimes it's good luck. I don't know. I didn't make up. I'm sorry. I didn't make your body. I didn't make your body brittle.
So Natalie, you get the last word, and then we'll go to Kurt. Go ahead, Natalie.
The voters already account for that. Those seasons where players played shorter amount of games, they didn't make first team, they made third team. So the voters were already accounting for the fact that those players missed lesser games. This overcorrection was not needed because you know why it's an issue? Because later when it comes time to talk legacies, the first thing we look at championships, then we look at awards. And when you start to say, oh, this player had this many, all NBAs, they don't have as much as these players as the past, that's going to be the issue because you're going to have guys who are good basketball players, very good all-star level players, but those players are going to have all these all-NBAs, but not, yes, it will.
I don't think so. Okay, Natalie, we got to go to Kurt. It may be an overcorrection, but there's an overreaction to this because I don't think that many players are going to miss 17 games to where the all-NBA team is going to be a joke. Kurt Helin is here from Pro Basketball Talk. Kurt, maybe you want to take Natalie's side here to balance this out, or are you old school like me and Michael, where it's like, hey, just play the game and we won't have this problem.
I'm just eating my popcorn. I'm all good, man.
Yeah, you don't want none of that Natalie smoke, so you might want to take Natalie's side if you know it's good for you.
No, I first off, one of the things that would get really interesting, especially will get interesting at 65 is, we're talking about the players taking time off. This is team mandated in a lot of cases. These guys get teams that go, hey, we've been tracking how many miles you've run in games. We've got all this technology. We've got wearable technology. We've got all this stuff. Your muscles are fatigued. You are more at risk for injury. You're sitting this second half of this back-to-back or this game here so we can – we're only playing one game this Wednesday. If we sit you, we can rest you Sunday to Saturday. You're going to take that game off and get all this – that stuff gets team mandated all the time. What happens when there's a guy at 63 games in line for an all-NBA berth? And I'm like, man, I don't have to pay him as much. You're going to have to sit a couple games, my friend. You guys were talking about it. I'm bothered by the 65, not for MVP. You want to put 65 at MVP? Frankly, as a voter, I factor in playing matters if you're going to be an MVP. All-NBA, a snapshot of the best of the league, man, that's a high number to hit. You guys were talking about making it 58, 60, so it's 58's 2/3 of the games. I'm a little more comfortable with that because as a voter, I'm already third-team All-NBA center this year. Anthony Davis is the third best center in the league, the third best center in the league, 54 games. Domantas Sabonis is at 78. Drove the Kings to where they are. Who gets that spot?
So I haven't had a chance to read the fine print on this CBA, okay? But I've been led to believe that it's not black and white 65, that they may account for what you're talking about.
That's
Can you enlighten
rumor.
me a little bit more on that?
None of us have seen it. We're all waiting for that detail. There's reports that there's going to be conditions, and I don't know what those conditions are. Is it? Hey, guy fell. If you're Kevin, that's the thing. If you're going to say it's for a legitimate injury, well, it's kind of like the NFL in Week 16, right? At this point in the NBA season, they're all banged up. I can come up with a legitimate injury to sit anybody if I want to. So where it is, Kevin Durant's kind of special case. He's probably not going to make my All-NBA team because it's at 47 games. As great as he's been, as MVP level as he's been, that's just not enough games. And it's not his fault. Guys keep falling into his knee, frankly. It's not on KD, but I just can't put him in at 47 games. Maybe that's not a fair representation of what the league looks like right now, but that's a low number. But I'm struggling with what to do with the guys in the low 50s who are better than the guys who played 10 more games, and what that figure is, man. It's really bad radio or TV to come on here and go, I don't know, but I'm struggling with this, man.
You're good. And so are we. Before we move on to the next topic, Natalie or Michael, y'all got anything else on that before we move on?
No, move on.
Anything else we didn't say?
We're going to start fighting again. We're going to start fighting. We're going to start beefing.
Natalie, I said almost everything that Kurt said, just not as smart, and I said it louder. So
he's way smarter than I am. Don't start that. Don't dumb yourself down to my level, man.
On the subject of MVP, and this might be a quick conversation. But it's all's well that ends well. This MVP conversation this year got very messy. Some would call it toxic, got very contentious. But then Embiid just kind of took it over to the point where Doc Rivers, and I couldn't argue with him, said it's over. The MVP race is over. Is it in fact over, Kurt, as an MVP voter? Or could, at this point, I never thought I'd say this, could Nikola Jokic still pull an upset, if not Giannis for that matter?
I'm almost more likely to vote Giannis first than Embiid. But I'm honest truth, as of today, I have a pretty strong lead to Embiid. I had it, frankly, before he put up 52 on Tuesday. When I really went back and look, last year, what were we saying about Embiid and not giving it to him? Well, the defense is a little is better, but Jokic played better defense last year. And this year, there's always an offensive gap. Well, I think Embiid closed that offensive gap, and Jokic played worse defense this year. And so if I'm putting anybody else first, it's in a messy situation like this year. It's really easy to go, who's the best player on the best team? Who's the best player walking the face of the earth on the best team? It's Giannis. They have the best record. Yeah. So it's tempting to go that way, but I still think Embiid is the guy who's lifted his team up the most this year, even though there will be plenty of people, Natalie, who will debate that.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I think you got the right choice. And I said that to Michael Holley yesterday, that if someone is second or it's going to be first, it should be Giannis, not Jokic. In my opinion, Jokic should be third among the three, although they're the top three. And he didn't like that response, right, Michael? Or let me not.
No. Yeah, well, I don't like the disrespect. I don't like the shade thrown at Jokic. Like homeboy just down, like he just down the street. He just down the street.
He didn't help He didn't help his cause with the injury, and it's not his fault. Again, calf strain, and calf strain. And this is when we go not to rehash the last conversation, but this is one of those where like he strains his calf right before the playoffs. If this were the postseason, he might be fighting through it. But now you're going to sit him some games, and it's not going to matter in Jokic's case, like he's going to be all NBA. But what happens if you sit him a couple games and relatively meaningless games at the end of the season, and it starts to keep you away from numbers? Or are we going to get Giannis? Are we going to get Giannis Antetokounmpo at the All-Star break, where he just literally All-Star game, right? He scores the first bucket, comes out, sits the rest of the game. But I played.
Well,
go ahead, Mike. Yes, I'm quick. Yes, I'm quick, Mike.
I just have a quick on this, and I think this has been kind of minimized in the Joel Embiid coronation before the season is over. The standings matter here because they're one game ahead of the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers might finish third in the East, and the Sixers.
No, the standings only matter against Nikola Jokic. When making the argument against Nikola Jokic, that's when the standings matter.
Jokic won as oh my gosh, what do you know what seed they were last year? This is what I'm saying.
Here she go.
Of course,
do they matter?
Of course the standings matter.
Do the standings matter? Do they?
Okay.
Yeah, they absolutely matter.
So if he finished fourth, well, hold on. It ain't locked. It ain't locked. Hold on, Natalie, they're a game up on Cleveland. They got blown out last night. They can finish fourth. What if they finish fourth?
That is traditional MVP criteria. Top 3 seed, top player, you have the stats. Now,
how about fourth, though?
Cold ass weather right here,
You didn't answer my question. Natalie.
It's cold ass weather right here, dog.
They're top 3 seeds.
Why does that matter?
But if they finish, because you keep shouting up top. If top 3 seed matters, What's wrong with fourth? Or is fourth the problem? Is fourth cool? If they finish
No, it's
fourth, you
not.
still
But I'm
good
just
with
saying
Embiid?
the top three is the
Okay.
top of the
'Cause
standing.
they have bad
and
games.
they have the same record
got a game on
as
Cleveland.
Jokic. So like they have the same record as the Nuggets. So what is your point about the standings and record?
Because he hasn't lifted his team to the top spot in the conference. You told me yesterday that the West is so interesting and the better storylines, all this stuff. In the West, Denver's first.
One record. He's
Denver's
at the top.
Denver's first in the West. Philadelphia is about a game away from. Look at this. They're a game away. They're a game and a half. They got a game and a half. You got a game and a half on Philly.
I love the hypocrisy. Last year, I said that the Sixers had a better record than the Nuggets, and everyone said, "Oh, it's not a big difference in the record." And I said, "But they are higher in the East than Jokic is in the West, so that is of more value to his team than it is of Jokic."
Your conference.
And it was dismissed.
It's how you do in your conference.
Now you're
You
trying
lift
to say,
it. Number one team. But look, I give it to Giannis anyway. I give it to Giannis right now. It's not Jokic versus. It's not Jokic versus Embiid. I'm giving it to Giannis. Giannis is my MVP. I'm just saying, for a guy who's lifted his team, he's lifted his team to where? To what? What have they done?
Oh, come on.
Where's he lifted?
So
what have they done?
If I could interrupt real quick. Sorry to interrupt.
This is ridiculous.
There's this scene in Brown Sugar where Tay Diggs and Sanaa Lathan are fussing, and Queen Latifah walk past like, what y'all going through? That's what I want to know between the two of y'all. In my absence, what y'all going through? Like, I come back and I'm like, what's
Kurt, he likes to give me riled up.
I'm here for it.
He couldn't do it yesterday, and that's what this is.
I'm here for it. Listen, I would love nothing more than just come on this show and just be a guest and watch you two go at it. I do want to ask Kurt Helin one more thing before we let him get out of here. Speaking of the Sixers, they mailed it in last night against the Miami Heat, who obviously pushed the Celtics to the limit last postseason. All of a sudden, the Heat are getting hot. They've been missing wide open threes all season. But the last 16 games, Kurt, as you probably know, they got the second highest true shooting percentage and the sixth highest offensive rating. Like when you talk about Spoelstra and Adebayo and Hero and obviously Jimmy Butler, they're still in the play-in tournament as of today. But if they get help from Brooklyn and get in that top six or even survive the play-in tournament, how dangerous are the Heat in the Eastern Conference? I'd love to see a 3-6 with Philly and Miami.
Yeah, for 3-6, I'll tell you what. Nobody really wants to see them, right? That's part of it. They missed shots, and it wasn't just – it's guys who make shots. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, shout out UC Santa Barbara. All these guys who normally make shots just were missing them this year. Duncan Robinson can't hit anything. Suddenly, those things are starting to click a little bit. But the other part of it is simply this. Spoelstra's maybe the best tactician in the league. You've got playoff Jimmy Butler's real. Playoff Jimmy Butler's real. Bam Adebayo gives you versatility up front to guard guys like Embiid, to guard guys like Antetokounmpo. Just they're a problem. And you look, I think they're beatable, but if they finish seventh, which is what's probably going to happen, they're going to go into the play-in and beat that. They just own Atlanta anyway. Look at Boston's track now through the East. I get Miami and all that smoke in the first round. Then I get the Sixers and Joel Embiid. And by the time I get through that, then I get to Milwaukee. That's a gauntlet, man.
Yeah.
Well, look, all I know is if Embiid is MVP and he doesn't go deep in the playoffs, I can't wait to have that conversation. Oh, but look at Natalie. Natalie,
I brought that up. I think that's a great point.
Hey, man.
Hey, you know it.
You guys know nothing but there's going to be nothing but Tatum stuff out of Boston once they reach the conference final. Why wasn't he MVP? It's coming.
No, he didn't deserve it.
You think they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, Kurt? The Sixers?
The Sixers? No, I'm picking Boston to win it all. I think Boston beats them, but that's just a gauntlet. But I'm still picking them. They're still my team to win it all.
Michael and Natalie go get some couples counseling. Kurt, it was a pleasure. We'll talk to you later, brother.
Take care, guys.
Bye, Kurt. Have a great weekend.
Hey, you too. Have a good Easter, everybody.
I mean, it straight seemed like a lock for the longest time that C.J. Stroud, bigger C.J. Stroud, was going to be the pick. at number 1 once Carolina went up in that trade with Chicago. But my main man, Mort, who I believe, Mort said pretty definitively that Bryce Young is the pick for the Carolina Panthers, Charles Robinson. So is the intrigue over? Is that what you're getting? Or is it wise to not to believe half of what you read and none of what you hear this time of year?
I mean, it's April 7th. We got a little bit of time here before we get to draft day. Here's the thing that is intriguing here. I truly believe Houston really, really likes Bryce Young a lot. And
Houston.
It's curious to me that in the last week, it's kind of gotten out there that Houston might not like all these quarterbacks. It's gotten out there that Houston doesn't like all these quarterbacks. And it's certainly been suggested by people who are wired into the Texans that if Bryce Young isn't there at 2, they're not necessarily going to take a quarterback, not necessarily going to stick at 2. So what happens right after that piece of information leaks out? Carolina's taking Bryce Young at 1. Okay, I mean, is this a play, right? If you're Carolina and you're sitting there and you're going, well, we actually like C.J. Stroud, but could we squeeze Houston here? Could we squeeze Houston to move to 1 for Bryce, giving us some assets, and we still get C.J. Stroud at 2? I'm not saying Mort's being worked here. To me, it's always made sense. It's always made sense that Bryce Young was a candidate and maybe even sort of a leader for that number 1 pick. I never understood the betting odds that automatically put C.J. Stroud. I felt like that came on the strength of him in Georgia and then his pro day. But I was like, the consensus throughout much of the process had always been that Bryce Young was going to be the guy, as long as he wasn't as long as he didn't weigh in like in the 190.
Under 200 pounds.
Yeah, under 200 pounds. And, geez, he's 5'10", and all these different things. So, yeah, it makes sense. I wouldn't think that Mort's getting worked, but I always think it's interesting when you see pieces of information that could lead to some trade pressure leak out near each other.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's 20 days before the draft. It doesn't even with the number 1 pick, it doesn't benefit Carolina to spread the word that this is our guy. So I'm with you, Charles. I think something's going on here. Bryce Young is a terrific, both of them are. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. I happen to think C.J. Stroud is going to be a little bit better, but okay, you really can't go wrong with either one of these guys. How does this affect, in your opinion, the pick after? So let's say it's Young, Stroud, Young. How about 3, 4? Are we talking about a couple more quarterbacks in there, or is it going to be a non-quarterback who's holding down that 3 spot?
The draft could start at 2. If Bryce comes off the board at 1, I'm telling you, there is a very real chance that the Houston Texans are at 2 and they go, we like a quarterback, but we don't now. The other quarterback we don't like him at 2. We want to move back a few spots. So maybe we're calling and seeing if we can dial down and, what availability is there for us to slide back and still get the quarterback we like. That would be a guy like, say, maybe Anthony Richardson, maybe it's Will Levis, whoever it is. I don't know that it's automatic that they take C.J. Stroud at 2. So to me, I guess you could say the draft starts at 1 now because we're all wondering, is this Bryce Young thing real? So it really does start at 1. But this trickle effect, this assumption that if Bryce goes 1, then the Texans are going to rubber stamp C.J. Stroud at 2. I don't think people should necessarily believe that. And then now we have some interesting things that are starting to pop with Anthony Richardson, because on April 16th, the week of April 16th, Anthony Richardson he's going to go and visit with the Baltimore Ravens. That is weird. Okay? Like, the Ravens are doing a lot of work on quarterbacks, and Richardson coming in that late. Let me explain to you how this process works and why people should take this seriously. When the Ravens make a call like that, the agent always asks 2 things. Number 1, are you really considering taking him, because this is way late in the process and we don't want to make visits that are gratuitous at this stage. We're not going to do it. And number 2, how the hell are you going to take him? You're going to have to go get him to take him, right? So if they're having that visit, it means that Lamar is in play. I would have to believe it really truly means Lamar is in play. I don't think they do that visit because they think, oh, Anthony Richardson is going to completely slide down the board to us. I think that's a real visit because, Lamar could get traded on draft day.
Well, is Lamar in play or might Lamar not play? And what I mean is, it's like, look, Lamar has made his point, and he's more than entitled to want a fully guaranteed contract. But absent a real market for him,
right?
And maybe you could tell us that there is one that's materialized lately or going on behind the scenes, but it doesn't seem like there's a real legitimate trade market for him right now. He seems to be out of options. Either you're going to play on this non-exclusive $30+ million franchise tag for the Ravens or not at all. Is Lamar Jackson stubborn enough to cut off his nose to spite his face, to die on his hill? Because I don't think the juice is worth this squeeze, if I can get any more analogies in there.
I would say, normally I would immediately say no, right? We would say we all learned from the Le'Veon Bell situation. You don't do this. You don't sit out a year. Le'Veon was for less money. People can point at Deshaun Watson. He got paid that year, and it was only $10 million in play. It was only $10 million in only $10 million in play for Deshaun Watson. But we're talking about $32 million plus on the table for Lamar Jackson that he will never ever see again, and you don't know. In terms
to say
of
nothing of the money he's already never going to get back because of the extension he hasn't signed yet.
Because of the extension he hasn't signed, right? So I mean, like and normally, like I said, I would say no, but the thing is, up until this point, Lamar has done every single thing that he's done the way he has wanted to do it. He does not listen to us. He does not listen to people in the NFL telling him how he should do things. He does not have an agent who is like, here's how you got to do this. Lamar marches to the beat of his own drummer, and that is the one factor you cannot ignore here. That Lamar could just be like, no, this is my decision. I'm at peace with it. And that gives him real leverage, being that kind of a wild card that I think he has done things his own way in a way that we have never seen a superstar NFL player in our lifetimes do it.
Yeah, most quarterbacks of his caliber are not representing themselves. Starting with that, and everything flows from there.
Yeah, so look, and Mike, I think we got to reconsider. Mike and I, Charles, have put the Baltimore Ravens at the front of the classroom. We see them walk into the class, we give them A's, and we think the Ravens have it figured out. But lately, not so much. I wonder if you think the Ravens are the Ravens, Lamar Jackson situation, the NFLPA survey was not great. They've done some things. They haven't won. They get a lot of credit for things that other teams wouldn't. I mean, the last time, right. I'm not saying it's been 30 years since they won a Super Bowl, but won a Super Bowl about 11 years ago. We talk about them like they're kind of like the Patriots or something. And not quite. We give them a lot of love. Maybe we overcompensate. We go a little too far with the Ravens. But you think they're rebuilding? My point is, are they rebuilding?
Michael Holley, here's another thing too that you're not mentioning. People never look back at how the Ravens handled their previous major quarterback negotiation. Joe Flacco's deal that he got was like pulling teeth with this organization. People forget that. He had to go win a Super Bowl to get the contract extension ultimately he wanted. So they have a history of they have a history of being real difficult with their quarterback deals. Okay, so this is like people are piling on Lamar and everything. But
all right, you know what? I'll play. I'm your Huckleberry. I'll take the other side here.
Okay,
it's Joe Flacco. Now I know they took him in the first round. But I mean, like in hindsight, 2020, he went on it. Yes, he bet on himself and won big. But like, let's not act like at the time it was obvious that Joe Flacco, who was playing to the defense and the running game in Baltimore, was deserving of the contract that he'd been earned by having a historic Super Bowl run. It was Joe Flacco, and in this case, listen, Lamar Jackson. Yes.
You already said the only phrase that matters. Joe Flacco did what? He bet on himself. What is Lamar doing right now? He's betting on himself.
No, but I'm saying Joe Flacco, that's a false equivalence. You're saying that Joe Flacco deserved the contract he got after the Super Bowl in the first place. You said it was like pulling teeth. Well, it was Joe Flacco. So if they didn't agree, part of it was maybe they didn't think Joe Flacco was worth it and he proved them wrong. Good for him. He's set for the rest of his life. In the case of Lamar Jackson, all I would counter with is this. And again, I'm Team Lamar. If Lamar has every right to look at Deshaun Watson and say, given what I've done, or in this case may be what I haven't done, I absolutely deserve a fully guaranteed contract, okay? So I'm perfectly fine with his stance. But it's not as though the Ravens are lowballing Lamar Jackson and not trying to pay him a market contract. They just don't want to go where he wants to go. That doesn't mean they're a dysfunctional organization. I know that's not the word you use, Michael, but I'm saying that doesn't mean that there's I said this a long time ago. There are no bad guys in this. Lamar wants something that is rarely given, and you know, and Charles, you know as well as I do what an outlier and what a unique set of circumstances the Deshaun Watson-Cleveland negotiation was. That was an act of desperation. So we're saying the Ravens are somehow in the wrong for not being desperate? Is that what we're saying?
There are some there are some bad guys in this. It's the Ravens. They are the bad guys in this because what's happened? Where's this? Why is there no market? Why is there no market or a very cool market so far for Lamar Jackson?
It takes more than one team to collude, if that's what you're alluding to. Number one, number two.
That's right.
But if somebody wanted to break ranks like the Browns just did, they could do it. They could do it.
Who's their source though? Who's their source on Lamar Jackson? You don't think that the owner? Look, I'm not letting them off the hook. Now there are no bad guys. Yes, there are bad guys. Look, I like the organization, but if you go ask me to pick somebody who I blame the Ravens. Yes, listen, they are the so-called bad guys here.
And to support Michael Holley here, I will say this. There has been, when Jim Irsay comes out and he says, I don't believe in fully guaranteed contracts, that in and of itself that's kind of a dog whistle for the rest of the owners. That's a like, hey, that's to me, that's collusion talk. That's an owner saying, I don't believe in fully guaranteed contracts. He knows other owners are going to hear him say that publicly, okay? He's sending the message. We collectively as a group are not doing the Deshaun thing again. Are they? Yeah, well, they've been colluding on contracts for years. This is not new.
That's what I'm saying. So let's not conflate collusion with negotiation. I'm not saying there's not collusion going on when it comes to not wanting to make the same mistake, quote unquote, that the Browns did in giving Deshaun his fully guaranteed contract. But having said that, it's not as though the Ravens are not offering Lamar Jackson a very good deal. He just doesn't want it. That's his right not to want that deal. Right. More power to him. But that doesn't mean the Ravens are the Bengals, Michael, or the Cardinals, and they're cheap, and you got to pay for soda and dinner and stuff. And this is a negotiation.
Let me say this.
It's happening,
Mike, let me say this with respect. Keep the Bengals name out your mouth in this conversation. My Bengals, keep the name out your mouth. You're talking about cheap organizations.
Well played. And listen, I'm not trying to cape up. I'm not trying to cape up for management. I just don't see this as somehow Lamar being wronged. Okay, because Lamar has a stance that they don't agree with. That's business. That happens. Charles and I were on the phone for 2 hours yesterday. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Charles.
Say, don't. Go ahead. We ain't doing it. No. Hey, but you mentioned
I'm not going to derail it. I'm not going to derail it. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned a team, though. You did mention a team here, and I'm just wondering. We were talking about the Ravens, and you said it's not like they are, Mike. You said it's not like they're the Cardinals. I do want to talk about the Cardinals.
Great segue. Great segue.
Oh, I'm so ready to talk about this. Yeah.
Charles, I've always said the Commanders they got a lockdown. They're the worst organization in the NFL and in sports. But I'm starting to think the Cardinals have overtaken them. I mean, just so much dysfunction. What is happening in the desert with these folks in Arizona?
Well, now we got Terry McDonough, obviously former executive there, who ousted, says that he was forced into a situation where they violated NFL rules when Steve Keim, former general manager Steve Keim, had been suspended in relation to a personal conduct policy for an extreme DUI, right? So McDonough says that Michael Bidwell said, no, we're going to continue to communicate with him, even though we're not allowed to. So we got burner phone. That's what's being alleged here. So we set everybody up with burner phones, and we're going to keep talking to the GM, even though it's strictly forbidden by league rules. And McDonough says, I wasn't comfortable with this. I was forced to go along with it. I'm not happy about that. And to me, the wider, and which in and of itself, that is an amazingly bad accusation for the Arizona Cardinals. The kind of thing that probably, if proves out, would cost them.
Who did not deny
Yes.
that this illegal communication existed.
Well, and McDonough supposedly still has his phone, right? Like, why did you not collect the burners at the end of this heist?
Yeah.
You got to get everything communication back.
Like, you didn't watch The Wire? Like, come on, man.
Right, yeah. No, McDonough was like, I'm keeping this. Like, this is going to be my ace in the hole. So the crazy thing, though, about this, when you look at it globally, in the fallout of this, Steve Wilkes, who was there at this time, he is not fragged.
Who looks great.
And he is not fragged the organization. He's just like, I'm sorry, that's between y'all. I'm staying out of it. And that is amazing, because now when you look back at that, and it felt like we were suspicious about it at the time, Steve Wilkes was operating under a terrible situation with the Cardinals.
Every day, Brian Flores' lawsuit is more and more obviously airtight. Every day is another thing to support.
I'm telling you, I thought of you, Michael. Michael Holley, I thought of you because I was like, this dude now, not only does he get to go, all right, well, look what happened with Carolina. When I took the reins of Carolina, look how that team turned around. But now he gets to go even further back and go, remember how messed up Arizona is? Let's add a whole other chapter to that.
Look, he told you what was really going on. Meanwhile, Steve Keim's on the podcast. Talking about the Arizona Cardinals organization, to which Kyler Murray responds with a video of him squatting some 13 weeks after surgery. So on the field and off the field, there's just so many question marks with the Arizona Cardinals. So much so, Michael, that I don't even know if I want to franchise them anymore like we used to do. Back when we used to liquidate the roster. Charles Robinson, franchise player that you are, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. I will talk to you in about 13 minutes, okay? Be by the phone.
Right. We have offers in your box.
I saw.
Charles,
we have business
Charles,
to discuss.
how many first round picks have you traded for next season? How many first round picks do you have next year?
In our 12-team league?
Yes.
Seven.
That's ridiculous.
We've got 7 first round picks.
You know what?
He's insane.
You know what?
He's worse than me. Michael, I never thought I would meet somebody worse than me. Charles is worse than me.
That is not true.
And Dawn hates me at this point.
Yes, that is
Commissioner
true.
needs to come in. We need a commissioner to come in, okay? This is a crisis.
We do need a league commissioner.
I really did turn him on to that narcotic, dog. Like, it's
it is the worst. It is the worst. All right, I'll see you.
Talked about your week. It's a year's worth of accomplishment and attention, but on the heels of the "you can't see me" and the ring finger point, then there's this idea from the White House where First Lady Dr. Jill Biden says, hey, let's invite the runners-up, the Iowa team, in the spirit of sportsmanship. I'm doing air quotes. I'm not even sure if you can see us, but what was the reaction in your locker room with your teammates to that?
Yeah, at the beginning we were hurt. Everything, it was emotional for us because we know how hard we worked all year for everything, and just being able to see that hurt us in the moment. But just going back on it, I mean, the team, you don't get that experience ever. So being able to go back, and I know my team probably wants to go for sure, and my coach is supportive of that. So I'm going to do what's best for the team, and if they would like to go and we decide on we're going to go, then we're going to go. But it was tough just seeing that in the beginning, but I think we'll all come together, and I think it'll be good.
Okay, so Angel Reese is part of that that's going to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
There you have it. She's changed her tune.
Hey, you know what? Well, she changed her tune, but I get it. Look, I mean, she made her point. And she has her profile has exploded. I mean, the White House even had to clarify and walk it back. I mean, it was a joke. Everybody agreed with her. And if Iowa is not going to go, I mean, the onus was on A, the White House, and B, Iowa not to go. Okay, but if Iowa's not going to go, and this isn't some political stance that she was taking, or she wasn't boycotting a White House or based on policy or what have you, then there's nothing wrong with her saying, you know what, I'm going to do what's best for the team, a team that she has to go back to next year and will continue to be a part of. And is going to continue benefiting from being a part of. So I think at a certain point, See, the thing about this whole ordeal since Sunday was a lot of emotion. Once the emotion has subsided, you got to start thinking practically. And for her, I think it was whether it was a conversation she had with the administration or a team meeting or Kim Mulkey, whoever it was, unless she has some philosophical and principled reason to not go to the White House, unless this is some protest about something bigger than basketball, there's absolutely no reason for her to say, I'm not going because you had the nerve to even suggest that the runners-up should go. Let me continue to be pissed about the very idea that a runner-up will be invited to the White House. She ain't got to hold that grudge. Right. Go enjoy the spoils of being a victor.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't agree with that. So I don't think I think for the school, our viewers, here's some poll results. So we put up polls, right? And so it's really interesting because both YouTube, which is on the right, and Instagram, which is on the left, they said no, she shouldn't go. But on Twitter, they did say that she should go. But with that being said, I always just took the position that it's ultimately, that's one Twitter commenter saying that they shouldn't go. But we also ran a poll on Twitter and they were like, no, she should go and get over it. He referred to Biden and said he's not a bracketologist because that's part of the disrespect they felt. They felt that because Biden didn't put them in his bracket, they felt disrespected by that as well. That's why they didn't let Joe Biden into their locker room. And I have to say, I don't have an issue with that. Like, some people thought they were being really petty about the whole bracket thing. But if you think of like the best competitors, Michael Jordan, right? We heard him form slights off of the slightest thing. So if that drove them to win a championship, then I think that's a good thing. And as far as the going to the White House, they felt disrespected. And when you feel disrespected by something, you take a position on it. And I don't think it's for any of us to determine okay, let's be practical. Yeah. You're caught up in the emotion. If they still felt disrespected on this day and didn't want to go, I would be okay with that. And
but that's not what she said. But wait, that's not what she said. But that's not what she said. If she said, when we started out, you said, oh, she's changing her tune. I'm saying I don't have a problem with her changing her tune. She didn't say we still feel, but you're saying that I said that they didn't have a right to feel disrespected. Everybody felt disrespected on their behalf by the idea that the runner. You literally just said that, Natalie. You said that they felt disrespected.
I'm saying the part I'm saying I don't agree with is we said that people probably talk to them, the passions have gone down. And so we don't know what's the motivating factor for her changing her opinion is what I'm saying. But I'm saying that I don't think that it's about practicality. I think that's probably for the school. That's for others. It could be for some of her teammates. But what I'm saying is whether they were still outraged or not, I think it's okay whether they go or don't go. I don't feel strongly
That's absolutely okay.
I think most people, or I should say, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, they should go. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And what I'm saying, for me, that doesn't move me. It's about their personal feelings on it.
For you, Michael, all I'm saying from a practical standpoint, when I say practical, I mean, you just won a championship. It is tradition. Angel Reese at this point is a business. Let's call it what it is, okay? And so if she decides that what's best for the business of basketball at LSU or Angel Reese business is for me to be this team player and not continue to be petty, that's her prerogative, and I support it. I don't think she's somehow selling out or doing an about face or getting pushed into a different place because she's
changed her position. I wasn't suggesting
that. And that's fine. Look, and the bottom line is she gets the best of both. She's going to the White House with her teammates to celebrate a championship. Iowa's not going to be there, and she did have the line of April when she said, we'll go to the Obamas. I like that. I just we'll go to the Obamas.
I like the petty.
Okay, and I'm going to invite myself. Okay, I love it.
Well, you know who else is in the news? Angel and Ja were just dancing together before the parade, but Ja's back in the news. And, just more on how the police investigations of him were handled. And y'all know we talked about Ja a lot. Investigation, yeah. So they didn't really conduct one, right? That's what the latest news reports are saying. But we've talked a lot about Ja on this show. So our commenters weighed in. And of course, you know, there's the people saying, don't crucify him. Don't crucify dude, right? But there's others who are just saying, like, they don't really think it's a mental health issue or, you know, he's going to counseling, but this is just him being entitled, you know? It's a cop-out. So our viewers had a lot to say on this. A lot of them are, I really hope Ja Morant learned a lesson from all of this. So our commenters were supportive, and then some thought we might have actually been being a little hard on him. So, you know, I hope that we stop getting news about Ja. That's where I land, and I hope there's a turnaround. He hasn't really been on social much, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the Washington Post. Mike, did you read the Washington Post article today? I mean, I think it was today. It was like, I mean, very, very comprehensive and very thorough and very alarming.
And they've been all over it. They've been all over it the entire time. The Post has done some great reporting on Ja Morant.
But a lot of coddling, a lot of protecting, and not from a security detail standpoint, but like literally coaching him during the investigation about what to say, or about the police about what to say, or about how, you know, they would have approached it if it were them. A lot of celebrity worship here was so problematic on so many levels. And it's scary that if these allegations are true and he keeps getting away with it, somebody's going to end up really getting hurt. Hopefully he's learned his lesson.
Natalie, I look forward to the moment we can stop talking about Ja off the court and see what he does when he gets to the conference finals against the Warriors. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.